There's a dua the Prophet ﷺ said would never be rejected. Not the dua of someone fasting, not even the dua of someone traveling. It's the dua of a parent for their child. And that means the opposite is just as real. A parent's broken heart, their silent tears at night, their quiet, "Oh Allah, guide her," that reaches the sky faster than almost anything else. This is the story of a girl who found that out the hardest way possible.
There was a small house with a blue door and a garden that never quite grew the way Khadija wanted it to. Khadija was a mother of one, a daughter named Amina. Her husband had passed when Amina was only 7, so for 11 years it had just been the two of them. Khadija sewing late into the night to pay for school fees, Khadija skipping her own meals some months so Amina never noticed the money was tight, Khadija waking up at Fajr every single day, making dua before she made breakfast. Amina was smart. Everyone said so. Top of her class, sharp tongue, sharper mind. But somewhere between childhood and 18, something in her had hardened. Maybe it was watching her friends' fathers pick them up from school in nice cars while she walked home. Maybe it was the girls at school who whispered about her second-hand uniform. Whatever it was, Amina had started to feel something she never said out loud. Embarrassed. Embarrassed by their small house. Embarrassed by her mother's tired hands, rough from sewing. Embarrassed, though she'd never admit it, by Khadija herself. It came out in small ways at first. A sigh when her mother asked her something, an eye roll when Khadija reminded her to pray. You wouldn't understand whenever Amina talked about her friends' lives, their phones, their vacations. Khadija noticed, of course she noticed, mothers always do, but she said nothing because she remembered her own mother once telling her, "Patience with your children is worship, even when they forget you're a person too." Then came the night everything cracked.
Birthday trip. 3 days away, mixed group, no real supervision. She asked her mother for permission the way she asked for everything now, already annoyed, already expecting no. Khadija said no, gently but firmly. Not like this, Habibti, not without knowing the family properly, not for 3 days. "You never let me do anything," Amina's voice cracked the quiet of the small house. "Everyone else's parents trust them. You treat me like I'm still 10. "I trust you," Khadija said quietly. "I don't trust the world yet. That's different. You don't trust me because you don't know anything about my life. You just sit here sewing and praying like that's all that exists." The words landed like a slap. Khadija went still. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Khadija said, very softly, "Is that really how you see me?" Amina didn't answer. She was too angry, too caught up in the heat of the moment to see her mother's eyes fill with tears. She grabbed her bag. "I'm going, with or without your permission." "Amina, I'm not a child anymore," she shouted, already at the door. "Stop trying to control my whole life." She slammed the door so hard the pictures on the wall shook. One frame, a photo of Amina as a baby in her mother's arms, fell and cracked against the floor. Khadija stood alone in the small house, staring at the broken glass. She didn't clean it up right away. She sat down on the floor next to it, and for the first time in years, she let herself cry. Not quietly, not the way she always cried when Amina was asleep, but openly, her shoulders shaking. Then, through her tears, she raised her hands. "Oh Allah, I don't know what I did wrong. I only wanted to raise her right, soften her heart, bring her back to me, not for my sake, but for hers. Don't let her walk a path that leads her away from you." Amina didn't go to her friend's trip that night. She went to a different friend's house instead. Too proud to admit she had nowhere else to go. Too embarrassed to call and say she was sorry. She told herself she wasn't wrong.
She told herself her mother was the problem, too strict, too old-fashioned, too stuck in the past. But somewhere under the anger, a small voice kept whispering something she didn't want to hear. The way her mother's voice had cracked. The way she'd gone still and quiet instead of yelling back. Around midnight, Amina finally decided to walk home. It wasn't far, 15 minutes, streets she'd walked 100 times. She told herself she'd sneak in, sleep, and deal with the apology in the morning. Some things feel easier to fix in daylight. She was 3 streets from home when the headlights came out of nowhere. She remembered the sound more than anything. A car horn, far too late. Then, nothing. Opened her eyes again. The world was white and blurry and smelled like antiseptic. Machines beeped somewhere close to her head. Her whole body felt like it belonged to someone else. And then she saw her. Khadija, sitting in the plastic chair beside the bed, still in the same clothes from the night before, eyes swollen from crying, hands wrapped tightly around a tasbih. She hadn't left. She hadn't slept. The nurses said later she'd been there since 1 a.m., refusing to go home, praying every prayer sitting in that chair because she wouldn't leave her daughter's side, even to walk to a musalla. The moment Khadija saw Amina's eyes open, she broke down completely. Not the composed tears from the night before, but a raw, relieved sob, the kind that comes from a fear too big to hold in a body. Ya Allah, shukran, shukran, she whispered, gripping her daughter's hands like she might disappear again if she let go. Amina tried to speak. Her throat was dry, her voice barely a whisper. Mama? I'm here, Habibti. I never left. Tears started falling down the sides of Amina's face, into her hair, onto the hospital pillow. Not from the pain in her body, from something deeper, something that had been cracking apart since the moment she'd slammed that door. The last thing I said to you, Amina whispered. I called you controlling. I said you don't trust me. I said things I didn't mean, Mama. Khadija pressed her daughter's hand to her lips. I know. I could have died, and the last thing you would have heard from me was that I hated the way you loved me. Shh, don't say that. Allah brought you back to me. That's all that matters now. But Amina couldn't stop. Something in her had broken open, and everything she'd been too proud to say for years came pouring out. You gave up everything for me. You skipped meals so I wouldn't notice we were struggling. You sewed until your hands bled so I could go to a good school. And I was ashamed of you. I was ashamed of the woman who prayed for me every single night while I was out being embarrassed by her. Khadija's own tears fell freely now. I was never doing it for thanks, Amina. I was doing it because Allah gave you to me, and I promised Him I'd protect you, even when you hated me for it. I didn't hate you. Amina's voice broke completely. I hated myself, and I took it out on you because you were the only one who never left. Amina spent the next 2 weeks recovering. A broken leg, some bruised ribs, but nothing that wouldn't heal. Every single day, Khadija was there. Not once did she say, I told you so. Not once did she bring up the fight. One evening, as the sun was setting through the hospital window, Amina finally asked the question that had been sitting in her chest for days. Mama, why didn't you get angry at me after everything I said? Khadija was quiet for a moment, adjusting the blanket over her daughter's legs. Because the night you left, I remembered something the Prophet said, that paradise lies beneath the feet of mothers. Not because mothers are perfect, not because we don't get hurt, but because Allah placed something sacred in that bond, something bigger than one bad night, one angry sentence, one slammed door. She took Amina's hand. You didn't disobey me, Habibti. You disobeyed a version of yourself that was in pain, embarrassed, exhausted, trying to be someone you're not. I've known that girl since she was born. I was never going to abandon her over one hard night. Amina cried again. But this time, it wasn't guilt. It was relief. The kind that only comes after you've been forgiven by someone who had every right not to. "I want to be better," she whispered. "Not because I almost died, because I understand now what I almost threw away." Khadija smiled through her tears and kissed her daughter's forehead. "Then let's start today, together."